Hello everybody, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, software engineers. Today we will be learning one of the most famous nowadays state management tool which is being used with React.js application. We know that we have quite often from the past few years used Redux state management tool, then after that context API. So for the past few months now we are using MobX store, and I feel this is the right time that I should share my experience. Let's understand this together. MobX is also very less complicated. We know, like when we write code in Redux, it is complicated, and all the pieces which are there in Redux is much simpler in the MobX. So in this today's video, it will be a short video, and we'll be implementing MobX and real time. Okay, before starting with any other thing, let us see what we are going to build. Yeah, well, already created, but we'll understand step by step. So this is MobX. So data which we are seeing over here is coming from MobX store. Let's go to the inspect our development tool. We go to MobX, and now anything we'll do is tracked by MobX store. We can see real-time data just like Redux. So it is one of the latest technology for it is mostly helpful for the application which uses application that are complex but does not require lots of, if you know that if you are building an application which will be complex but in lesser pages, lots of features are called, you can use MobX there. If you create something, we see in the MobX store we have the data. This is a store user info. Over there we have added data. So summary, we will be doing CRUD operation with MobX. We'll be adding some data, editing data, updating data, deleting data. Okay, and also it is very fast in processing compared to Redux. As the code is less, processing time is also very fast. Let's straight away dive into the project. We will understand each and every piece. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and if sometime in the future you come across MobX store in your project, I think this will be helpful to you. Let's start together. So firstly, this is the MobX symbol. Like for Redux we have a one icon. This is the MobX icon. So first thing that we need to do is step number 1. In the Google browser, search MobX Chrome extension. The first tool which comes over here, MobX. I've added the link in the documentation. So we see that I've already installed it over here. You have to do the same thing, and once you have installed it, we can see in that inspector element. Cool. Okay. So we'll go in 3 steps, and this is very much important that we should know the terminology also with MobX, like we have in Redux, action creator, then reducer, then the steps that we have, the cycle of the Redux. Same likewise we also have MobX. It is less complicated. Let's understand now. So this documentation I'll also share in the description. So what is a MobX? MobX is a state management tool. It's just like Redux. Now basically there are 3 terminology over there. Number 1, it's a state. State is basically the MobX store application data. If we go over here, inspect element, go over here, go to the MobX, do some operation. Whatever we are seeing over here, this is the store. All the data which we are seeing, let me refresh the page, add something. So this is a state. Okay, so data in a store is called state. The second thing is action. So this terminology is the mostly standard when we use MobX. Second is action. So what is an action? Anything, if we want to update a state, we use actions. So we basically pull out this method from the MobX. We will do it soon. And we with action we update the state. And the third is called derivation. Derivation means, suppose we have 2-3 state, now we want to calculate something. Some logic is written like get total subject, or some calculation is there, this plus this summation of the data, basic amount, principal amount. Suppose any calculation is there which does not require any extra parameter to enter. For that we use derivation. For now, let's just understand these three terms. We will implement in the code below. Alright. See, this is a cycle method which we see over here. We have a MobX state. If you want to update anything, we'll go by it. Mutating, updating anything in the MobX store, we have to go through this route, action, and this action updates the state. Derivation is basically for any logic. We write any logic which does not require any additional data to pass to it. We do derivative, and it reflects instantly. We do not need to click any button or something. It instantly, we see real-time change in the data. For example, number 1 marks in English is X, marks in Hindi is Y, marks in mathematics is Z. Suppose you want to get a percentage, we write some percentage logic, and real time it will show reflection without any clicking button. Okay, so till now we have seen three things: state, action, derivation. These three pieces we understood terminology. We have also installed this MobX plugin. We can click this button and add in the Chrome. Okay, I've shown you this, that we are going to create a basic CRUD operation. What we will try to do is add data in the state, update data, then all the CRUD operation which we will do over here. And we'll also observe in the MobX extension for the visual perspective. It will also reflect what is there in the store, we can see over here. Okay, I'll try to be very descriptive, but at the same time I'll try to be very fast also. Okay, so we'll be installing a React application. We can do by this npx create React application. We can name our project. I'll also show the code over here. See, once we have done this, the same code is also available in here over in the GitHub. You can go over here, make sure it should be MobX branch, and here we can see we have all the code. Now the next thing, okay, for this we have to install two packages. Okay, one is mobx-react-lite, and the second one is MobX. Hopefully I'll show you, I'll add in the documentation. Okay, so basically what we are trying to do over here, once we have a component, we are a basic React application. What we'll do, we create a component, so think like a real-time project, one which we are doing in our day-to-day in our projects. So we inside component there are lots of data over there, lots of component pieces of the pages are there. So in that we have created two pages, About.js, Home.js. Okay, next thing, let's go to the home page. In my current code we see our code is the latest one, but I've added screenshot here so this will be helpful. So it's a basic component, nothing written over here, just a basic functional component. Imported React, we have written a functional component, export default home, and we have printed this log. One static data is printed, MobX. Okay, one thing to note, that inside home we are receiving this store. What is this store? This is the MobX store data. Question 2, from where we will pass? We will be passing from app.js file. We will be seeing now. Okay, let me show you in the code. App.js. So think about this only, home. This is only there over here. So what we are doing over here, will come to this. I try to be best possible, explain in best possible simplest manner. See, let me revise again. So after creating the React.js application, we have added two empty components. It's called About.js and Home.js. Inside Home.js we have written this logic, just a functional component with some static data over here. It is receiving store. Okay, this is the step number 1. Step number 2, we have created another file. It's called About.js. This is another component. Let's leave it empty for now, not required. We'll see in the later stage after home. And the second one is UserStore.js. We are learning in the way it is implemented, mostly means best practice standard. UserStore.js. Now one thing that we need to understand is we have created store over here, user store. We can have many store over here like that. Like for example, if we are using authorization store, we can keep over there. Means that we have, based on the requirement, we keep data in the store. User store, suppose trade store, suppose cart store. All the store we can create according to the data structure it requires. But now for this application, it's a basic, we are dealing with user data, so let's call it user store. It's empty. So in the browser we will see nothing but this mobx2. Okay, this is the one of the most important piece and the easiest piece also. It's called user store. So for using MobX, now we have to repeat the same steps. This is the first line. We will be understanding each and every keys, what it does and why we use it. Okay, so let's understand user store now. What we write in MobX store. Whenever we will work with MobX, firstly we have to understand that MobX store is a class based. It's a class. So first line will always be this, whatever. Okay, so this is actually MobX. This was the application which I was saying that we have to install, other than MobX like we have written over here na? MobX like, we will install MobX and mobx-react-lite. So what we have to do now? We have to pull out these few component. We'll do one by one. Action. From the above, we have above terminology. We know that action is used to update the state. So whenever we want to update a state, we pull out action. Computed. What is computed? So if we go over here, which we have seen, any derivation, you can call derivation also as a computed only, because anything which does not require any additional, means any logic we are performing based on the already data in the state, that goes in computed. Okay, make observable. Okay, we'll come to remaining item. First let's understand the core of it. It's very easy, just one time you have to understand carefully. Okay, so after writing this line, the first thing we have to do is we create a store. Let me show you in the code which it will be. This is my store, user store. Okay, we create a class, we export this. Okay, user store, this is written over here. The first step is to write a state. This is inside writing that store, user store, the first step is to import all the things. Step number 2 is to write the default state. So this is the default state. You want to give some data which is to be there by default. This comes over here. Okay, id, name, subject. Step number 2, step number 3, 1, 2, 3. Now inside we have to define a constructor. So we know that a class based component, a class has a constructor. So what we write in constructor, this one is important. We write make observable. See, we have pulled out make observable from here. So make observable means we are telling MobX to track all these things. Okay, so MobX will be smart enough to understand that, okay, what if we do over here, what if we do over here. So we have user state, we have written user state. So whatever MobX have to observe, we have to write inside observable. Okay, we'll go step by step, no need to make it complicated, simply. So the trick is, anything which is to MobX has to observe, we write it observable. Anything, any function which we have written, we will understand each and every function below. Method over here, we will update a user, add a user, everything what is written over there we write in action, because action is only used for updating state. And last one is computed, which is derivable. So anything which we need to calculate from the already existing data in the MobX store, we use computed. Okay, now okay, the first few things we have understood. Now I am repeating the steps because we have to do this step only. Maximum time we will follow this step, and basically this is a standard practice. Okay, so now we see make observable. Okay, action is for updating state, computed is for derivatives, make observable is to any function we write below. You want to suppose your application needs some new method, abc equal to something, you write something over there. Okay, so for MobX, what is it? Is it computable? Is it doing something, updating the state? If it is updating the state, you will copy from here like this, paste over here, type action. Okay, removing it from here. The next thing is autorun. Okay, see, this might sound little the explanation part, I know that sounds boring, but once you know it and apply in project, that's very much interesting. So the next step is autorun. Okay, so mostly if you want to log something, now if you suppose there is a logger, think real, like a real type project. Suppose you have a logger. Okay, you want to log anything over here, you can use it. So what is autorun? Autorun means, suppose if we come over here and we have written subject line, subject length is this. Let's go to the browser. Now let's go to the console. Okay, I'm clearing this, I'm adding a user. We see that this line prints. So autorun is basically whatever we write in autorun will log every time, on every refresh, on every state change. By state we mean MobX state change, store data state change. So if and one thing that we need to know, suppose we have not written name over here, whatever state is written over here, on that state change only. Suppose if we remove the name from here, it will not reflect in the name. Suppose you have written subject. So now if we go to the browser, we have written subject, total subject only, and we have removed that name one. So if we come over here, I think I've refreshed my page. So if we add user, see nothing prints over here because we have not written inside autorun that state name, but if we click on the subject it will print over here. Okay, this happens because of this. Now suppose if we go to the code and add the name also, so the simple thing is that whatever state is mentioned inside autorun, only those state change it will print, log the data. Now if we come over here, clean this up, add user visits prints, add subject prints. Cool. So autorun is there, and the final piece is runInAction. So what is runInAction? runInAction, this also prints, but this is called after autorun. Okay, so action computed, all this thing we have run. First step, default state we have done. Next step, we have written make observable. Inside make observable we've written all the okay, so we have understood the basic structure of the MobX. So basically, for understanding MobX, we have to understand these pieces. We have understood basic terminology wise at least, that we create a class, add a state, we write whatever MobX needs to track over here, just to observe or to update or to do some logic calculation. We've also seen that autorun and runInAction. The next piece, okay, whatever we are making computable, by computable we mean derivable, one, we write get in front of that, so it's a getter method. So whatever method inside this MobX store is written with get, it's a computable. So for those method we write over here computed. Okay, so we just explored this class. Now let's go back to the documentation we were following. Okay, so we have seen everything in user store. Let's now implement step by step. So if we go to the app.js, okay, so over in the previous step we have seen that our home component is receiving a store. Now if we go to our app.js, it's inside src, we see we pass this store over here. One important thing to understand, note actually, that this is, we imported that class over here, we have exported over here user store, we have imported in our app, we pass the instance of the store to the components. This is important because we never pass directly the user store, we always pass the instance to the component. Now the next step is, okay, now we are in our home component. So till now what we have seen, we have created an empty home component, we have written something, some dummy data, and those data not just the static strings, not coming from state. Now the first step is we have to fetch data from the state. So what we'll do now, okay, so now we are having this store. Okay, we can if we come over here, okay, let's MobX component, it takes some seconds to update the store. Okay, we have added this store data is coming, this new name, we have to print it. So whatever name is there, id, name, whatever we are seeing here, subject, everything is coming from over here. This is actually the default store which I have created, id, name, subject. Okay, So everything is there inside store. So if we go to the home, we see store.userinfo.name. See, very important, this step is important, because see, if we go to the extension, we see inside this we are having data inside user store and then name and id. So likewise we have written over store.userinfo.name, store.userinfo.id, and we see that it is printing, and we have it over here also. So initially it had that, on clicking that changed to new data. So we have done the first phase of our MobX store. We have successfully fetched the data from the store. We are actually doing CRUD operation, and we have fetched the data over here. You will feel from past few months I am working with this MobX store, you will feel that this is much faster and less complicated. In Redux we used to write lots of code, and here this saves lots of time. So it depends upon the project itself in which we are working. So sometimes if you get chance to work with MobX, you realize that this one is also cooler and faster. Okay, order in which console prints. Yes, this one we need to know, important. If we go to our user store now, step number 1, just in which order, like in React we know that component did mount, first prints, then renders, then that life cycle method which we had na, that we order in which it prints. So we have to understand this over here. The first thing is all the getters will print. Getters are computable, computed method. All the getter will print first, then autorun will print, then runInAction will print. Just that's it. I've written all in text, we can read it. Okay, now next is updating MobX state. For updating MobX state we have to create a button. Okay, we have already seen, but in logic how we have implemented. Let's see over there. So for implementing, first step, okay, so step number 1, whatever logic we are going to write, we have to write in MobX store itself. Okay, then a function to trigger this function inside MobX store. So what we are going to do now, so inside we have to update a user. So earlier if you see over here in the previous one, we have created one updated user. These are the 2 action points we were going to do, like so it was returning dummy data na. Now we are making it into taking gears on this. Okay, so we have a method over here, update user. I'll show in the code base itself. So we have a method over here, name, it's called happylearnings. This is the name of the initial text which is written over here. Okay, so if we come over here, let's do the refresh, we see this is the text data over here, this is the initial data which comes over here. Now the second thing we have to do, once we click that button, okay, we have not created that button yet. Before creating that button in the component, what we will do now is first create the method in the store. So ideally what we'll do, we create a method inside this class, we can name it whatever with the best convention. So I've written update user, so it should accept a name, and ideally what it should do, it should update this string. So this dot info dot name barabar this name. So we are basically updating the state over here, this dot user info dot name. So we can access the default state with this keyword as it is a class. Okay, so the part in the store is done. See, in real time there will be lots of as per requirement you can write here logic, but in the end for updating you have to update like this way only. You do all the logic here, you update the data based on the requirement. But what important thing is to note is that once we suppose this method was never there, okay, we have created the first time update user. Now we should first think in our mind that okay, why we are creating this? For updating a state. So we will come to the make observable and write it action, so that MobX will know okay, this will update the state. Cool. Hope it is. I'm explaining in a simple way. Yeah, okay. The next thing is we go to the documentation. Okay, so what we did, we wanted to update a state. So first we went to the store page, that is user store. In your case, suppose if in the application there is another cart store, another store, first step is to do inside the store. Okay, that logic we have written, we have registered in the make observable, and we did updated by this. Step 1 is finished of the update state. The next step is to invoke this method from the React component. Now how we can do that? Now that we are seeing now below. Okay, so we have gone to our home base component. Okay, this one is very important. Okay, for first thing that we have to do this every time. So like in Redux, what we used to do, whatever we need to invoke, we first subscribe from that Redux store and we pass as the higher order component. Similar way, from mobx-react-lite we pull observer from here and we pass as a higher order component over here. Okay, so basically what we will do now, whatever we write code and update code for reflecting in real time in the browser, this is very much required. Otherwise what will happen, if we will not pass this observer, we will see that in the mobx data will be changing, but in real time it will not be changing. So if we go to the home component, let's remove this. Okay, and let me refresh the page. See, it's connected to MobX. Now if we do add user, we see that this data did not change, but in the store, if you will see, it has updated the value. So this is the thing, data will be updated but it will not reflect in the browser. But if we do back, we pull that observer from here, let's refresh the page again, connect it to MobX, we see this time data get reflected. Okay, so that's the first step, that in the React.js we pull this observer from mobx-lite. Whatever we were doing in Redux store, MobX store, we pulled from MobX extension, but in the component we have pulled from mobx-react-lite extension. Now the next thing what we have to do is we have to create a button for updating the state. We have created a method over here, right, which is update user, which does this thing, update this data. Now for invoking this, we go to home. First we have created one button, like regular React way we create. We have created a button and we on click, we have written change user, and in change user assume this is not here. Okay, this is the method. On clicking this method is there. We can write logs and that will print. Now to access this store, see, it's so much simple. We have store over here. Okay, so if we have store over here, it means we have all the method and properties here only. See, if I remove this now, boom, gone. So we can see that. Let's go to the user store, let's go to update user. update and change the state. Cool. Okay, so what we have just done now, we have fetched the data from the state, we have updated the state. So for let me do now only for updating the state. What we have done, step number 1, we have created a new method. Let's assume this method never existed. So this we are going to create in the component, React component. So inside the browser we have created this method. This will accept some data, and this will update the state we want to update. Okay, for this case it is name. Step number 2, we have to make MobX understand, okay, what we are going to do. This is going to update the state. So we have registered over here, okay, this is an action. So task of the store is done. Then we come back to home. We have created one button. Okay, inside button we are calling this method. We know that our home is having the store, so we can invoke the store and pass the data. And we have to pull observer from here, and we have to pass as a higher order component. So we have done two things, fetching data from state and updating data. Let's see what all we have now. Okay, we did all this. I've added a screenshot over here, it might help you if you go through them. We observed name is changed. Okay, similarly we have created another thing, which is the button which we see over here. We have a button, second button, it's called add subject. Now if you go to the code and if you go to see the store, initially this subject had, this is an array of data, strings only. It had 3 data, English, CS, maths. Now we have to add one more subject to it. Okay, so for that what we have done now, we have created one method, add subject. So for same thing what we have done below, now it will accept one data. Since user info, the subject is an array, we have pushed this data to it. Okay, now this is a new message, this was never there before. So we have registered in make observable. What is it doing? Updating a state. So it's an action. Let's come back to the home page. In the home page we have created one button. So what we are also doing is we are looping through the store value. We have store over here. We can see from here that inside store subject we have array over here. So we are looping through this store and printing whatever there is in the subject. Alright, now we are clicking add subject, and we are just passing one hard coded data, aeronautics. That's it. So if we click add subject, we see this is printed now, and if we go, and we also see that new add subject is invoked over here. We can click this, we see this one is also now there in state. But if you see the previous one, we see, okay, it has updated the state, so it is showing now, but initially it will not show. Cool. Let's not stretch this video more, but I think you guys got the basics, core of this. If you are using Redux from lot of time, and if you get a chance to work with MobX store, I'm using, recently got opportunity to work with MobX and learn a lot, and I think this will help you, because this is very much fast and simpler than Redux. We know that pain of Redux, integrating pieces. So basically these are only the things, gist of it. So yeah, that's all for this video, guys. If you have learned it something new, make sure you like and subscribe this video. Happy learnings and all the best. Thank you.